He's not making it either?
Don
Essen?
He's
is
here.
right there.
He's muted, but
Oh, is he here?
Yeah.
I don't see him.
I'm here. You guys can't see me?
He's
Oh,
in the
now
woods.
I see you. I didn't see you there.
When I unmuted, all of a sudden that guy popped up. Isn't that nice?
We're recording.
Ernie Scanlon is trying to get in, I think. Hold on. Hi, Ernie.
Fred, go ahead and put yourself on mute, if you don't mind.
Hi.
All right, so we're recording today. Thank you. Today is January 21, 21 of the Whitman Buildings, Facilities, and Capital Expenditures Committee. Fred's not going to hear us. He's on the phone. I want to do a pledge of allegiance before he's while he's sitting. So I guess just for everybody's sake, this meeting is being broadcast, being recorded via Zoom because public forum is temporarily suspended due to COVID-19 limitations. If anyone watching this has any questions, they can contact me at dcodero@whitman-ma-gov. And we currently have 8 members, and we're still searching out for one. We have room for one at-large member. So if anyone out there is interested, please contact me at that email address. All right. So with that said, we'll start the meeting and with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United States of America,
America.
and to the republic,
To the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for all.
All right. Was that Fred? Was that Ernie trying to get the contact at the?
Yeah, so I forwarded him the invitation with the Zoom link, and he should be in momentarily.
All right, so we'll just get started, and when he comes in, we'll just suspend what we're doing and allow him to make his presentation so we can get him in and out of the meeting.
And I have him coming because I saw Whitman Hanson on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you had questions for him.
Yeah, no,
That's why I asked him to attend.
No, that's perfect because on the agenda it was the big question is what is what they're prioritizing for their 2022 requests.
Okay, and I don't know that he has exact answers for that yet, but most definitely let's try and find out.
Okay, all right. So what we do have on the agenda, we'll just start with subcommittee reports. Finance Committee report is that we currently have all budgets in except for the selectmen's budget. They're waiting for the new town administrator to come in before submitting that draft budget request to Finance Committee. Based on what we know so far in the requests that are in, the budget requests exceed the levy limit. So basically they're requesting more money than we have. To the tune of over $700,000. John Galvin, who was in our meeting last time and who's really good at the numbers, has tweaked the numbers and played around with them a little bit. And if we're able to follow some of the MAD's recommendations, which are each department not grow at a rate greater than 2.5%, taking into account some fixed costs, like trash costs and things like that. We're still exceeding the levy by, I think it was $300,000. So there is some work to be done in terms of getting a balanced budget for next year. And also, I spoke with, sent an email to Ken Lytle. He responded back and said, we have $1,058,526 in free cash. So free cash is our I don't want to say our pot to one of our pots to grab from in order to finance capital projects. It includes water and sewer retained earnings, free cash, And
Ambulatory,
what was the last one?
ambulatory fund.
No,
Ambulatory.
that's currently now in the Article 2. They changed that format to make that into the Article 2. Well, I guess we do have an ambulatory fund that has changed, which is now, so what they did was instead of collecting the ambulatory money at the end of each fiscal year as revenue, as receipts, they now put it, it's now going directly into the general fund. However, town meeting voted to have a specified set amount put aside for ambulatory, for purchases of new ambulances in turnout gear. That's important because what it is ambulance and turnout gear are one of the handful of items that are reoccurring expenses that falls under, hey, Ernie. He's connected. So I'll just finish the statement. Falls under our purview of capital items. So Ernie, so if it's a pleasure, if it's okay with the board here, are you ready to present, Ernie? You're on mute.
Unmute. How's that?
Better.
Okay. I'm in my office. I tried to get on the computer and I wasn't able to. So,
Okay. All right. So we'll just pause. So that essentially finished up what I was just saying. So Ernie, take it away. I'm not sure if you have anything organized yet, but the two things in question are 2022 capital requests for the town of Whitman, and eventually some type of prioritization from the school committee, from the school district with those requests. And then if you have any updates for 2021 capital projects that have been funded.
okay. Can I start there first, Dave?
Absolutely.
Okay. So as far as the generators, jump right to that one because it seems to be the effort I think we all put into it, trying to get this project off the ground. And we're at the point now where we settled on the generator that we're going to go with in both buildings. It's going to be a Kohler, 150 kW for each building. The challenge that we've had is Duval is different than, and each one has unique issues that we're dealing with. Duval, there was some wetlands filing that we had to do, which we've done. I've met with the chairman of the conservation over there. We had Carl Garvey do a site plan for both locations. Carl, through us, hired a botanist to go out there and flag any of the wetlands that we have. We right now at this point, we got the green light from the conservation chairman to move forward with that. The challenges that we're up against, that we ran up against, is the underground, bringing the underground service into the building. And I think I identified this early on that we really appreciate you guys supporting this at $80,000, but the numbers that we're seeing are closer to the 100,000 that we originally requested. And then what we're doing is we're putting all those quotes together. Again, we didn't put this out to bid. We're using the state bid list, soliciting quotes from them, from contractors that have already bid through the state, and the numbers we're getting are pretty consistent with money that's closer to about $92,000 to $96,000. Conley School. Okay, I just need to look at the capital. I'm on that right now. Okay, Dave, could you hold on a minute?
Yeah, you get notification that you got access through your computer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hold on, David.
Yeah, we got you on our end.
Hold on, David.
Hello, Corin, Miss Maya.
Hello, Mr. Cadero.
Doesn't look like Ernie.
We got you, Ernie.
We can't.
You sound like a you sound like a Muppet.
Gonna have to save this audio.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just wait for him to come back. You know, my wife's a elementary school teacher, and I forget the saying she says is to her kids is pretty much, you know, sometimes technology is good, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for you. Something to that effect. All right, so that's just over $1 million in free cash available. Again, a lot of some of the capital items that request items that we received so far have identified funding sources and funding sources that aren't free cash. So that's a good sign. However, the bad part of that is that if they're not able to get to if finance committee is not able to get a balanced budget, you know, an option, which is never a good one, is to use try your audio now, is to use one-time money, i.e. free
Yeah.
cash, as an operating budget.
Can you hear me now, Dave?
Yep, much better. Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so let's go to Conley School. The challenge I had at Conley School, did a site plan over there. I had to identify, and we have a couple of the infrastructure that's there, the transformers out front, and the gas line comes in there, the fire protection goes in there, and the water service goes in there. So we finally settled on a location and where it's going to go. But those are the challenges that we're up against, you know, trying to get that installed. So one of the things that we're working with is DPW to do the excavation in both locations. I had a contractor out there today for pouring the slab in both locations, and then the connection, bringing it down. So I knew this originally, that when they built those schools, they didn't put in an emergency circuit. So when I said 150 kW, we're going to be powering up that both those buildings when power goes out, because I looked at how we were going to separate all those circuits to emergency. It would have cost us, you know, 50 grand just to separate the circuits. So we settled on, we upgraded to a larger generator, and it's going to do the entire building. But each one has its challenges. So that we're moving in that direction as far as, you know, as far as the projects that you guys awarded us already. You have a question?
Yes. So it sounds like, you know, I'm assuming that this would probably be top priority for 2022 in order to get these completed. Correct?
Yeah, and actually, Dave, what we're doing right now, I did talk to the Acton town manager, and I kind of explained to Lisa that this is what I was up against, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going down the rabbit hole without, you know, somebody communicating this to me, or me communicating it to them. And I got the green light to continue with Conley, and that's what I'm doing. So my priority, and we've done a spreadsheet, my priority is to get this completed by the summer of 2021. Once I get all of those estimates together, this summer, basically this summer, I have them completed. It's 12 to 14 week lead time on the generators. And I'll sit down with John Tuffy and George and Jeff probably next week to do the purchase orders for getting the generators ordered for both buildings. And then once I have two more companies, I have 3 estimates now. for the electrical installation, and they're all in the same neighborhood. I need to get 2 more estimates, so I feel very comfortable, because the person that does the Conley School is not going to be able to do the Duval School because the bid law. So we're buying the generators off the state bid list. The electrical contractors that I'm going through are all on the state bid list, but I can't give them both jobs. So it'll be, and plus they're both so different. It's not like, geez, if they do that, they'll learn something from that. They're not, because they're so completely different, each project.
Okay. So am I hearing that, excuse me, am I hearing that you've passed through all the permitting hurdles, and now it's essentially you're at the planning station, bidding point, and both projects, hopefully would be done by with additional funding will be done this summer.
Correct.
We're
Perfect.
basically what, 30,000 short?
I would say we're probably close to 20,000 or 18,000 per project, per school. So it's close to the
40,000.
40,000, Fred.
Okay. So that's what we would probably be seeking as a district, would be an additional allotment of $40,000 total for out of FY22, because the other monies are already encumbered.
Yep, and that's great, because that's less than what the numbers were being thrown around last year. So that's great news.
Yeah. Yeah, I think David, go through the exercise. Of course, I had Caterpillar out there, and they were, giving me numbers, and I mean, I like Caterpillar generators, but you know what? I think we're purchasing a really good generator. It's going through everybody I talk to in my business. The Kohlers are more dependable. It's easy to get parts for, and all of the connection, and more people in this area are familiar with them. So I think that's what we're settling on. And plus the service contracts that we have with the companies that do business with us, they service Kohler. So that's why we're able to, and what I didn't want to do is if we put a bid spec together and then goes out the bid, the low bid, it comes in with a Kawasaki generator that nobody services. That's kind of where we had to be really careful on how we did this.
Yep. Okay.
And what's the fuel source, Ernie?
It's diesel.
Okay, so they're all diesel, not natural gas.
Yeah, I think what happens with natural gas, and others out there might know this, but with natural gas, you'd have to raise the kilowatt, the size of the generator, because natural gas doesn't burn as hot. So with diesel, you get a much better, you can reduce the size of the generator because you're getting a much better or hotter flame out of that versus the natural gas. And we've had really literally no issues with the one we have at the high school. So that's number 2. Well, that's diesel fuel too.
How many gallon tanks are they?
250.
Okay.
That's one of the challenges we had, Fred, with Duval School, because it was next to a wetlands. What will happen if, and it's all scenarios, what would happen if the tank got ruptured or there was a problem? So we've covered all those bases. We are going to have silt fence. Any construction we do, we'll have a silt fence. We'll have manhole, silt sacks in the manholes. So any of the construction we do over there, we'll make sure that we follow, the strict guidelines. But the good news is they gave us the okay to move forward with. I'm very happy about that.
All
There's
right.
no
Any other
problem.
questions on that?
Maybe you did answer this and I missed it, Ernie, but are they pad mounted or trailer mounted?
Pad mounted.
Pad mounted.
Yeah. Yeah, we got the specifications, and what we ended up doing, we have to, I think it's like a 9-inch or 9-inch concrete pad that we have to put it on.
Okay.
All right. So anything else, Ernie, in regards to last year's capital
Well,
items?
one last thing, can I just add
Go
one more thing? I don't know, maybe you've already done your due diligence on this, Ernie, but with, the the direction to go greener and everything, should we go diesel or should we go natural gas? Has that been a consideration at all?
Yeah, so we looked at the numbers for natural gas. And I would have to uptick the size of that generator if I went with natural gas.
What would the cash number be though, the dollar number?
The dollar number would probably be in the number we have now for the generator, I think is around $54,000 per generator. I think it'd be in the $62,000 range for the gas generator.
We still may want to take a look at just for longevity. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to push a direction where to go, but you know, with everything going kind of green and I deal a lot with permitting generators and stuff. We have 27 generators on the building that I'm in Boston, all diesel. And I do know that everything's kind of pushing towards natural gas. Eventually, I mean, California, you can't even use a diesel generator now for emergency standby. And it's coming, you know, it'll be natural gas everywhere soon.
One of the issues I ran into, because that was the direction I wanted to go, especially with the Duval School. Unfortunately, on Regal Street, the gas line ends as you turn in. And for those that don't know, the gas meter is basically over by the playground. That gas line, because I had National Grid over there, that gas line would have to be extended, and there's some work that has to be done on that gas line before they would allow us to connect into it. It just seems so complicated. The gas line, to put a gas generator over at Conley School, that gas line is not big enough to hook into the generator. So we would have to excavate that gas line that's there and put a new one in. And nobody could give me secure numbers that I could go to the bank with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I got away from the gas.
No, I hear you, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with all that, you know.
Yep.
Being a facilities person, but I see in 10 years, you know, things coming down hard from the EPA saying, especially public buildings, pushing them to do everything natural gas first. And I don't want to have to revamp, gut, or totally replace in 10 years. That's all. And if it was only a delta of, you know, five grand today, but it seems like it's going to be a lot more because one, you don't have the gas going to one of the locations, and two, you'd have to gut and redo the gas line in a different location. That's a big number, I'm sure. So I don't know. I was just throwing it out there because I don't want to have to revisit this in 5 or 10 years.
That sounds like a good upgrade for this committee to decide, you know, 30 years from now.
So Ernie, if you do want to kick that around a little bit, Chief Greno has some contacts at National Grid on the municipal side that I work on the distribution side for the state with natural gas, so I can't really get too into getting into that weird conflict of interest area. But if you talk to Chief Greno, he might be able to at least get you in touch with someone if you want to consider that, because I don't think they would charge you to replace the service line to up service it. Extending it around the building, they probably would.
Yeah.
But I don't know that for sure.
That's what I was told, that for us to do that, there is a cost, and nobody could give me a solid number on what that cost is. But I will go back, I will revisit looking at the real number, looking at the 150 kW diesel versus what we're going to have to upgrade to for a gas generator, and what that difference in cost would be.
Right.
That's what
the operating costs would be significantly lower, but we're hoping not to have to operate these that often. So it's one of those.
It would be the offset in cost of what obviously it's going to help us out in our budget. But I will revisit that. And it's a simple question to ask. Upsize it. What would it cost for a gas generator? And it's on the state bid list, and they should be able to give me a number. All right.
And I think the town hall, their generator's gas.
Yeah, it
They hooked
is.
into the-
Yeah, they're serviced by FM generator.
Okay.
So just quickly, old project, the high school track, not to mix it up, but that was, again, in the middle of COVID. We were able to get that done. I think we're paying our last invoice now, maybe next 2 weeks, we're paying our last invoice on that project. And I don't know if you've been up there, but that came out so good. We got additional for the long jump. We got those 2 lanes done. They did a fantastic job as far as any of the repairs. And that's the thing I talked about. If we caught that in time, that we wouldn't have to do major renovations to it. So the repairs that they did were built into the specifications. And I tell you, in the end, looking at that project, Cape and the Islands did a fantastic job for us. I know they followed the specification, but we had one change order, and it was our change order that we wanted, which was the long jump, and they treated us really, really fair. I mean, their number, because we had, to be honest with you, we had an alternate. The alternate was to do the long jumps, and the numbers were in the $30,000-$40,000 range. We ended up getting, we brought in T&K to do the asphalt work, and then we got Cape and the Islands to do the resurfacing. And in the end, it cost us like $21,000 to do both of those. So I was very pleased with the outcome, because that was really up in the air, what the final product would look like, but we're in good shape. All right.
What about some of the pending Whitman Middle School rooftop units, univents?
Okay, so I've had, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but Train out of Providence, Rhode Island. My God, it's like, I don't have a lot of hair left on my head, but it's been very difficult to get them to move on anything. So I've contracted out with Magic Air out of Carver to replace those units. And we also hired them as a district to do service for us because they are a Train representative. So that's in the works to be completed before the summer heads in, Fred. So you're talking about the rooftop units over at Whitman Middle? Fred? Corin, I don't know if I'm muted.
Fred, you muted.
Yeah, no, I realize that. I've got, hang on. Sir, I'll call you back, or call me back in 2 hours. There we go. Sorry about that.
All right, so did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was listening because, just looking like, for instance, even Duval security cameras on the tab, we're 90% done with that. That was from May of 2018.
Yep. So Mike Driscoll, we actually had an evaluation done on all our technology, and they looked at the the cameras that were installed. I think we spent $30,000. There's a couple of blind spots. So Mike Driscoll, we're going to finish out that $1,400 that's left in there, purchase a camera and get that hooked up, because the principal has identified a blind spot on the second floor. What we've done is and I don't know if you shared that with the group, Fred. We put like a list of projects, existing projects together,
I
and
sent
where
it
we
to
are
Mr.
with.
Cordero so he could send it to everyone in the group. I don't know if he's forwarded it yet or not.
Okay. What we did is we listed all the existing projects that you guys have funded and where we are as far as those costs, and as well as percentages of completion. So it's a pretty detailed list. We've done it for the town of Hanson, and then obviously we have the district. We have the district projects on there too.
And I mean, I like this list. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Duval chairlift.
Okay, Duval chairlift. We're in the process of petitioning the state for a waiver. What happened if you're over, again, this is a project that's 2 years old when it went down. We put the application in, and we contacted Garaventer out of New Hampshire. They came over and we went through the process and it got denied. They wanted us to put a ramp in. So I met with Bob Curran, structural engineer, to put a ramp in the Duval. You all familiar with the location over at Duval School? The ramp would go back 2 classrooms. And what would end up happening is we would have to relocate doorways. It was just an involved process that we had to go through. And so we took another shot with the state, and we're in that mode right now with them requesting a waiver. What happened, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, the building code changed as far as the chairlifts, and you can't have anything less than 7'6" in the headroom over there. As you get, now this is when you're on the chairlift, the headroom over there is just around 7 feet. So we have to get a waiver from them. So if there's a person that's on that chairlift that's standing with somebody that's in a wheelchair, although you're not supposed to be, on the chairlift at the same time, that they would bang their head. So basically that's what the state's saying. So we have to get the waiver from them before Garaventa can install the new one. We already got a price on the chairlift. We know what that number is. It's around $34,000 installed. What we're going through is making sure that the state agrees with us before we put it in. They come over and say, you can't use it.
Okay.
All right.
And where I have the luxury of having this list right in front of me, FY21 articles for the Conley and Duval sidewalk repairs. Those will be completed in the summertime this year.
Yep.
I understand it was very late when we had town meeting, etc., to get those done.
Yeah, so we had Axiom come out because we have the same projects going on at Hanson. So Axiom Concrete Cutting will come out and they'll cut all those prior to the warm weather cut coming in. And we'll get DPW for both towns to go over, pop the squares that we have cut out by Axiom. And then we have a contractor ready, willing and able to pour the concrete.
Okay, wonderful. I think that pretty much sums up everything that we have going on. As far as for FY22 articles or things that we're going to be looking for from the district. I believe we had still the fire lane.
Yeah.
At the high school. I'm going off of memory on this. I know there's some networking and telephone systems, but we're going to be having a complete presentation from what Jeff shared earlier in February on networking and phones and our complete needs, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
So Dave, I don't know that it'd be make any sense to go over those things right now.
No, right. So if I'm hearing the Whitman Hanson Regional School District Capital Group hasn't vetted these out yet?
We haven't vetted everything out completely. And as far as the networking goes, that will be a complete presentation to the entire school committee in February.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we no need to get into those now.
If I could talk about one thing though, Dave.
Absolutely.
Actually, 2 things. I'm looking at them right now. The existing fire lane at the high school. We originally asked for $25,000 to just resurface. T&K gave us a price and just to resurface the fire lane. Since then, we've relocated the preschool program out to the side where this fire lane comes around. And there's drainage issues, and there's really compaction issues where the concrete asphalt is actually just given away, and they never put a berm on the hillside. So we re-looked at it, we put it out and had a design done, and the numbers we got back were you know, close to 90 grand. So we petitioned both towns. I think it was the July town meeting. And I think, well, I know for a fact Hanson approved it, but Whitman did not, because I think they wanted to, you know, relook at, you know, their finances and stuff like that. But what I'm requesting is that you support the $34,500, so that we can start this project, you know, before the summer kicks in, or have a plan on what we're going to do. And the other thing that I'm hoping for is fans over at the Conley School, in the gymnasium and the cafeteria. I can only say that they work because we have them in Hanson. And they've done a fantastic job of recirculating the air. And we found out, we put them in the Hanson Middle Gym and the Indian Head Gym, that the requirement for air conditioner, I don't get that pushback over at Hanson Middle now, because we have those fans in there. But more importantly, at Conley and Duval, and actually Whitman Middle, when they did the original schools, I don't think they put anything under the concrete slab. So we get a lot of moisture coming through those floors. It is like humid as hell in there. So adding these fans to both those locations at Conley School would really improve the environment, the interior environment. We'd be able to move that stagnant air or that moist air around, and it really does make a difference. I mean, like, I was so impressed with it, and the outcome of both schools. So those are the two projects that, for me, it's hanging out there. Hanson approved the money, and I'd like to get the fire lane at the high school done, and then also something done with the fans, air movement at Conley School.
Fred, you had a question?
Yeah, Ernie.
Yep.
And especially where we have a new town administrator coming in, the fans that we're using, Big A, we'll say, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word, they now have a UVC component that they can install, so it acts as a germicide as well in killing COVID. Could these possibly qualify for CARES Act money? And, you know, that may be directly through the town, similar to how Hanson's doing some of their projects through Hanson Green, you know, for the schools with the roof and the boilers over at Indian Head. Would the town of Whitman, per se, be able to do that as a COVID-related project to one of their own buildings? Because they do own the building.
Yeah, well, we've already put the I-Waves in those buildings. So all Whitman schools have I-Waves in them, rooftop units and
But there's
units.
nothing in the gymnasium like that.
Yeah, the rooftop unit in the gymnasium, all rooftop units. So basically, everything in Conley School has already been, we've already sent that into the state. The installation and purchase of the I-Waves for reimbursement. So I think, Fred, what I'm trying to say, I guess you can't go at the apple twice.
No, but if we're moving all the air out of that room, so to speak, and turning it over on a frequent enough basis, then we probably wouldn't need fans. But I think it's too large of an area.
Well, the units we have, Fred, moving the air over there, all have the I-Wave, I think it's the I-Wave C in them.
Yeah.
So again, I personally think that we're covered with for the COVID, the bacteria. It actually, we've noticed a difference with the I-Wave. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the I-Wave technology. Maybe it's a good thing for me to just quickly mention it. It expands the molecule, and it's able to capture on the filters that we have now. So what we're finding out, it's doing a much better job in keeping the dust and the smell down too. So it was kind of a side effect that we've discovered by installing those. But Fred, I can ask the question. I know they call us once they came over and gave us a price. They have all these options for us. I think the number I have now does not include you know, any added environmental components.
Okay.
I don't know what that price would increase.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, because I did hear a rumor, I even forget from someone that, our new incoming TA was friendly with some of the county commissioners and perhaps could get a justification even beforehand.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, just on that, the county commissioners have given us pretty clear guidelines, and I don't know that this would meet it. It exists in a capital matrix already, which is one of their red flags. We want fans, and there's no way to prove that we will be using the fans only for COVID. They'll be also cooling the room, so those are the two big sticking points we'd have to get over.
Right. Okay. Good idea, though. All right. Anything else, Ernie?
Nope, I'm looking at everything else is basically related to technology.
Okay. So right. So just to summarize real quick, you those two projects you're considering priority, along with the generator. So there's three on your high priority, and then in addition to that is some of the technology stuff
Right.
that hasn't been vetted out just yet.
Can I
Yeah.
just add one thing coming down the pipe? I know our vehicles are going to need to be addressed sometime in the very near future.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to give a quick summary as to what years we're utilizing and the mileage and the conditions.
The
In a
vans
minute
that
or
we
two. I
have-
mean, they're old.
Yeah, they are. The vans that we have, 2009, I just replaced the transmission in one of them. The pickup trucks, we have a 2008, 2005. We have some younger models, two earlier models, but the wear and tear on those vehicles is just doing a number on us. For snow and ice. You'll probably see us driving around town in a dump truck. We have a landscaper's dump truck. We just replaced a body on one of the 2012 Ford pickups because it rotted out. We went to Red's Auto and got out of our operating budget, we got a flatbed that we put on it that we could put the sander. So I think the guys that do the maintenance on those are getting very creative, and they're trying to find ways to keep them running. But we're definitely in need of new vehicles. We're desperate for them. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
And one of those vehicles does contain a diesel
Correct.
gas pump, so to speak, that holds, was it 200 gallons of diesel?
150.
150. Right. So in a power outage, we would have the ability to go fill up our own diesel tanks for the generators, but the vehicle has to be able to run, get there.
Right. Okay. So Ernie, anything else on your end, Ernie?
So Dave, and the members, we have a pretty good plate of things that we have to get accomplished. And I think if we can get all these things taken care of, and obviously once we get our technology report in, you can digest what's going on there. But for me, if I can get that roadway and I can get the fan project approved with the additional money for the generators, I've got sidewalks that I'm going to be doing this summer. So some of the stuff that we're doing, not just new projects, but we do have some existing projects we're going to wind down too. So we're in good shape. I feel really good. Probably the first time in my 17 and a half years here, I feel good about the outcome where we're heading for the summer. We have projects that I'm going to be happy to step back and see, geez, we completed this. Oh, we're working on this, and this will be completed by the time the kids come back in August. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So Ernie, while I have you here, at the beginning of this budget season, I did some research and identified the article that put this committee together. It dissolved the prior committee and put this one together, and has definitions of how it's structured and what we should be doing. one of those things that what we should be doing is providing, well, it's a few things. One is receiving capital requests in the month of October. It says October 1st.
Yeah.
In order to have those discussed, vetted out, presented to the Board of Selectmen for the upcoming town meeting. Will that schedule affect the school district? Like, will you be in the future? Will you be able to provide capital requests in October in order for us to get through this whole process before town meeting?
Yes, Dave, to answer your question, I've had this conversation with Jeff and George. We're late this year because I think there was some confusion on when we were going to do it, the time frame. We know exactly what we need to do now. So our meetings, once September rolls around, I'll have a pretty good idea what our needs are for the next year and documenting them. I think some of the issues I run into, Dave, and it's no fault of anybody. Once we find out what the issue is, we solicit quotes to get real numbers, and that kind of drags out. And sometimes it's my own fault by allowing people to say, "Oh yeah, I'll meet you there," and they never show up, and I go, "I'll do it next week, or I'll do it next month." So we're adamant about getting you guys that information early on, so that way we can continue to feed you, stuff that comes in as we go through the process.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, absolutely. We now know what the marching orders are. We understand it a lot better, and we'll get that to you.
Perfect. Yeah, no, this committee never, since 2015, since it was formed, hasn't been following the directions. We're trying to resolve that internally. And so I'm just, that's a question I'm presenting to all department heads, and hoping they provide the same answer that you do.
Yeah.
Additionally, in the school district is already, fairly close to, having it. Well, I mean, you guys have a 5-year matrix, obviously it creates tweaking. So part of our capital plan is to input a capital matrix similar to yours for every department. So we're hoping to have that by next year. So that request will probably come out, sometime after May, saying, hey, can you provide your capital matrix updated so we can provide that, so it can be published. It's supposed to be published in the annual report.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping for from all departments.
Well, I think you'll see 100% support from us getting and meeting those dates that you're requesting.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All
All right. Any other questions out there? No, seeing no other questions. Thank you, Ernie.
Good seeing you guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Ernie.
Happy New Year, Ernie.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.
All right. Just-
That's good
Sorry.
news about the generators. I'm excited about that. Check my agenda here. So that brings us, so 2000, on the agenda, we have 2021 approved capital items. We heard, we've got an update on the school district. Was hoping Bob would be here so we could talk about the fire department and the DPW feasibility study. I'll send him an email, ask him if he can do that next meeting. Whitman Middle School update. Don, do you want to provide just an update on that? There's not, I know personally there's not much there.
There really isn't much there right at the moment. I don't know I don't know really what else to say.
Yeah, right. No, you're right. The one thing is that,
going on.
yeah, they're still, well, Fred's the, go ahead, Fred, you're the chairman.
I chair the committee, and I did receive a copy of a report that Bob Curran put together that does show quite a few residences that have been built over the past 3 years. That is going to DESE, and that's going to help, quote unquote, make our case.
Can you put that in context, Fred?
Okay, DESE looks at a very strange formula to determine future enrollment and how many square feet you can build or that they'll reimburse for, how many classrooms you need, et cetera. And what they take birth rate into consideration, the age of women, I'm told, being in your town, of childbirthing years. It's the craziest, most complicated thing. It makes the minimum local contribution formula sound easy. And there's only 2 people in the state that I think fully understand that. This is the first year that MSBA has ever done these projections. They've never done them before. They always sent it out to an outside company. So what we've done is A, we got the report from Bob Curran. B, we have enlisted a study from an independent third party so that we can justify what we feel our numbers are going to be needed for a brand new or renovated 5 through 8 school. And we're estimating 850, we're saying 900 right now, so we can settle for less. In conversation, they're at just under 600 or around 600 pupils. The feeling is we're probably going to end up somewhere in the 7 to mid 7 range, and that's what it'll be. At that point, you hope that they're right, but you see what the amount of building is and what we're hanging our hats on, and statistically what there have been for classes. You look at it and you say, yeah, you get a couple of hundred kids a class. So if you have 5 through 8, there's 800 kids. So, it sort of makes sense on an easy way to do it. They'll be getting an answer back from MSBA early in February, and we'll be having another meeting because our committee's just stymied until we get those answers. Then once we've been invited to officially enter the project, and then once we pass the next step, that's when they release the checkbook, so to speak. And once they release the checkbook, then we'd be hiring the designers and the project managers, et cetera, and taking the next step, toward the study, so to speak.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, and do you anticipate that? I wouldn't. Well, I don't know. Would you anticipate that all that work to be done in a final rebuild, rehab build number to be available for next town meeting?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. More than likely the one after.
Right. I think a feasibility study takes about a year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
There's an awful lot, and then once they determine which way they want to go, and that's from MSBA. We're not going to get to decide, oh, well, we want a new school. It doesn't work that way. They'll tell us you can get away with renovating and here's what it's going to cost. Or they say, we don't want to put our money toward a renovation because it's good money going after bad, and you're going to be visiting us in another 20 years. Okay, we want a 50-year building. This is what we're willing to do. And then you have design concepts, et cetera. And I think at that point, it would behoove the town that, the committee really rolls up its sleeves and works hard and examines every possible angle whatsoever. Not just the property on Corthell, but, we keep talking about Park Ave area. Could something fit there? Everyone just keeps saying, no, no, no. I'd rather ask a professional architect, can you fit it there? And see what they say. So, a lot of work to do still.
Okay.
But we can't get working until we pass the next few steps.
Okay. All right. Okay. So staying on the 2022 subcommittee reports, special town meetings, staying on the old business, sewer force main project on the agenda. So let's see. So if everybody doesn't know by now, special town meeting has been postponed. If that was they were trying to schedule for January, has been postponed. Whether or not it'll happen before May town meeting. Sometimes what happens, it's in conjunction with May town meeting. Whether or not it'll happen before that, I don't know. Actually, going back to the Finance Committee report, the chairman has reached out to the technology director and asked him to research whether or not a virtual town meeting is feasible. The question that I had on that was whether or not he looped in the town moderator, board of selectmen, or town clerk in that. And he said, no, it was just basically in the beginning stages of discussions.
Dave, so
Go ahead, Justin.
I reached out to your chairman after watching that meeting. There's no provision in Mass General laws and the acts passed last year to allow a open town meeting to be held virtually. We went through this back and forth with our town council before the July town meeting last year, and the provisions were only for representative town meetings to do that. So unless there's a change in the legislature, which, I mean, who knows, it doesn't seem possible.
Okay, good. Well, that answers that then.
But yeah, but at the same time, and maybe it's not, of concern to this committee, but under whose authority do you have town workers doing tasks? There's protocols. I mean, we fight this with the schools all the time. As to if you want information, there's a protocol to getting that information. You don't just go to technology and say, hey, I want to know the answer to this, or I want you to research this. I have to go through the superintendent. Now that's not saying Jeff hasn't said to me in the past, I'll let Steve know you're going to be calling him, give him a call, but you have to go through the protocol.
Yeah, well,
that may not be the purview of this committee. I don't know.
I can just speak on my experience with attending the Finance Committee meetings. Is that was never discussed during a Finance Committee meeting, so it was not a consensus of the committee for the chairman to do that. So he went ahead on his own to do that. So, but I think we got the answer from Justin. So we'll, the question that Justin, I think the question to the Board of Selectmen is whether, when will it be safe for a special town meeting? Will it be anytime between now and July, I guess.
Yeah, so we're just going to listen to the Board of Health, and the fire chief is our emergency director. It's not a determination of the board to say it's safe, we can do it. But a special town meeting only takes 2 weeks to post. So it is possible we can have a March or April, maybe late February if things turn around quickly. But
okay, all right.
We've had conversation with our school committee. We're supposed to have our budget hearing beginning of February, and there's been informal consensus, not a deliberation, but just on a one-on-one basis. Hey, do you have an opinion? And I've heard, little rumblings that, hey, it might be delayed. We'll find out what the district decides to do, but in the manner of safety, because I don't know how you all feel about going into a meeting like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, even in a non-COVID year, the past couple of years with the state has been brutal. So I can see where the school district's having, it's a wait and then hurry up mentality that you guys gotta take on.
hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have some governor's numbers and some MLCs, and at least be able to give a quote unquote general idea until our presentation.
Okay. So getting to the sewer forced main project. So after our last meeting, where the commissioner and the superintendent presented, I went ahead and so that I asked whether or not it'd be a good idea for their their consultant to come out and meet with us, and we could ask them questions. That's you saw the back and forth on that. essentially it was, well, we're having a meeting, maybe your answers will be, maybe your questions will be answered during that meeting. So I decided to watch the meeting. I don't know if anybody else watched it, but I found it provided more information. For example, there was discussions about this SRF funding, the state revolving fund. So the way it was presented to us was like, well, there's no time. The sense that I got was there's not enough time to get all the information together in order to try to submit an application to try to qualify for it. When I watched that meeting, so they were discussing it, and it was unclear whether or not they're pursuing it now due to the delay of the special town meeting. However, what I found interesting was that the state revolving fund, not only does it have one of the benefits of a low interest rate, it also has a loan forgiveness portion of it. So if for towns that qualify, they may receive loan forgiveness. Form your opinion based on, for me, that's a huge thing because, geez, we have an ability, the DPW has an ability to submit paperwork to try to save the town money. To me, that makes sense. To me, that's a no-brainer. So the meeting wasn't very clear on whether or not they're pursuing it or not, but they did discuss it a lot. Their consultant, Environmental Partners, forwarded some documents to the DPW. They're reviewing it, and they're going to send it over once they get that. They discussed potential alt add-on items to the bid, which they may want to add to the bid. They discussed potential new developments regarding permitting, but I didn't identify whether or not they indicated whether or not that'd be an impact to the cost of the project. They did discuss potentially increasing sewer rates prior to the project, not to the full $3 that they anticipate needing, but at some rate, because it's they require, increasing rates requires a public notification period. I think it was maybe 30 days, and because they only bill on a quarterly basis, there's some timing issues and whether or not they could get that done. So they're still estimating at 14.6 million with about 1.5 on alt add-ons, and the project to last about 12 to 14 months. So I resent that link to the draft 20-inch sewer force main assessment findings analysis. Anyone's interested, that's on the town website. Go to the search function and then just type in sewer force main, and you'll find a link to that electronic copy. I received an email right before our meeting from Kevin Cleary, the chairman. Let's see. We revised some of the add alt items and asked environmental partners to revise their bid item list. Got it back today. I have an Excel spreadsheet with a list of bid items and the unit prices with information where the unit price came from. Environmental partners will also provide a narrative. Let me review it and send it out. This does not go on the website as it has pricing and contingency information that should not be public. As for the assessment report, so I asked Dennis if he could, if you remember, he mentioned that the assessment report was in draft version online is finalized. So I asked Dennis for a copy of that. Kevin says, as for the assessment report, Dennis has hard copies, but the office was closed to all employees due to COVID, and now Dennis is out. I asked environmental partners to see if they can send me an electronic copy, and I'll have technology updated to the website. So to me, it's important for everybody to be working off a final document, not a draft document. So getting back to that draft document, the non-technical summary of the report is, the draft report. I'm not talking about the final report. I'm not sure what changes are on there, but they found soils with a high corrosive potential in areas that are mostly inside the Brockton property portion of the pipeline. That's where they found that's in the areas where they found these breaks. So no surprise there. That's the area that they discussed that's underwater and wetlands area goes through a landfill. So there's no big surprise there. Well, yeah, it's no surprise to find corrosive soils in those areas. So what they did do in the end of that report is they provided 4 alternatives. One was for fix a portion of the pipe, and they estimated that at $3 million. Install and rehab the old pipe at $14.5 million. Install and create a cross connection with the old pipe at $14.6 million. And install and abandon the old pipe, install new, abandon old at $8.7 million. So, oh, there's Justin.
This is alternative 1, the new force main.
Well, yeah. So I think essentially all those figures with the 4 alternatives will be the same, and you can see. Yeah, I'm trying to point like you can see me.
Can you scroll it down a little bit, Justin?
Sure.
Just
I can't see it. Is it? Oh, here it is. Hold on. No, I can't see it.
a little more if you could. Oh no, the other way.
Oh.
So in other words, so the top becomes more apparent. Just looking, okay. I was just looking to see how close it looked like it was coming to my house. That's all.
Pretty close.
Not too
All
far.
right, where do you live, Fred?
By Sportsman's Hilltop Road.
Oh, okay. So you can see a large section of it runs Auburn Street, takes a dramatic left. I'm assuming that's west. I don't see an arrow. West, and immediately goes into Brockton. There's that.
Hold on, I don't see this. Where is it? Justin, are you sharing something?
I'm sharing a screen.
Oh, let me just see. Where the heck is it? Maybe it's
Maybe change your view on your participants. Maybe pull that over to the right.
It's still in Zoom.
So I'm just going to keep.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay.
So I got it.
Yeah. So it takes a dramatic left into Brockton, into a wooded area. You can see how it abuts or maybe even hits a portion of that landfill. Goes along that residential area, and boom, it terminates, well into Brockton. So that I didn't measure it out, but it looks like half or greater than 50% of that pipe is in the city of Brockton. But what I found interesting was that this document has an option of installing and abandoning the pipe at $8.7 million, which is significantly less than the $14 million that's being proposed as doing something with the old pipe. So if you remember, the chair stated that their board was more in tune of abandoning in place, but included some add-ons to see if it was economically feasible to do it. Some of those add-ons, well, one is the difference between the alternatives is utilizing the old pipe in some fashion, and then the other ones were fixing a water line, since they're gonna have an open excavation in the area, and they discussed a few others in their meeting. To me, I don't know how everybody else feels, but to me, if these numbers are still consistent, there's a big difference between 8.7 million and 14.6 million, and then you have some add-ons. Not sure, I'm not sure why, I guess, the question that I guess I should have asked is like, why almost double a project, when we could get a brand new line for half what is being proposed to the town.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I mean, I would classify it as the difference between a want and a need. We need to replace the force main.
Yep.
Are we just wanting to do the other things? I mean, because why should we be paying to do something that is a want or a luxury, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. When I was thinking about it in my head, again, I was thinking in that same term. And it I kind of thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, why couldn't they do alternative one at the with just the remove and abandon, and then it's and then once some way down the future, go ahead and try and see if it's feasible to rehab it as a secondary pipe. We're talking economics now. Like, would it be economically feasible just to leave it there and then address it sometime in the future when your debt isn't as high? When you're talking about debt service, when your debt service is at a lower level, then you bring on another project, and maybe that's a better approach.
Well, and just like the options are, right? We're going to install a new and repair the existing, replace the damaged pieces and stuff like that. But if we just went with option one, which would be repair the new, we're abandoning the existing one in place. I don't know if we're required by EPA or guidelines to crush it like you would like a septic tank, or if we can keep it in place and come back and revisit it at a later time and repair it later on. Maybe that's an option. It might be more money because you're going to second mobilization, but it might be an option that we just say, hold off on repairing the existing. If we don't have, I guess the question needs to be asked, do we need to demo it and destroy anything that could be salvageable, or can we just leave it the way it is in place?
Yeah, and during
That's
their meeting,
critical.
during the meeting, environmental partners, that question was brought up by the DPW commissioners, and the environmental partners said it's just a clean out. Get all your solids out, give it a nice flush, and cap both ends.
Perfect.
Right.
And then we could probably even address it with our own internal people and just slug in, certain lengths of pipe whenever we have an opportunity.
Well, that this report talks about, and I didn't write it down, but they talk about a certain technology, which sounds like it's a like a liquid inject, and they put a slug through, and then
they're relining it.
Yeah. Right,
They're relining the inside with like a liquid poly membrane that hardens.
Right.
Yep. But I mean, what else can you realistically do with that pipe?
Well,
I mean, let's face it, it's been a poop pipe, for lack of a better word.
Well, the theory is it would be great for a secondary issue if the new pipe has issues. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, you're putting in a new pipe, you're assuming that you're gonna run 20, 30 years before you have an issue. So don't they have 20 or 30 years to try to come up with a solution, and if they decide to reline it at that point instead of doing it now?
But if the problem is that it's deteriorating from the outside in,
right,
that pipe's going to be useless in 20 or 30 years anyways. No matter what you do to it, pretty much.
Well, if you line a pipe that's deteriorating, then things will deteriorate around it, and you're left with the liner.
Right, but how small is that line pipe? Once you're left with it, its diameter is going to be much smaller. So therefore, is it of any real use at that point? You couldn't depend on it, I wouldn't think. If it's a 6-inch pipe, you got to be losing 2 inches.
Well, I think it's a 20-inch diameter pipe, or 20 point something. Yeah. And I would assume, you probably lose probably an inch, right? Inch of inside.
For a 20-inch pipe, you're probably losing a good 3 or 4 inches, because you figure, by the time you go all the way around, and the thickness of what you've got to put in to make sure it's going to be, stable, so to speak, your 20s probably turn into a 16 or a 17, I would think.
Go ahead,
Just
Justin.
to play devil's advocate on this, because why not? the town of Plymouth did choose to rehab their old pipe, do exactly what they're proposing when they did the same project a couple of years ago. And the most likely reason we would need to use the backup pipe would be some sort of nearby construction damage. Somebody gets in there, is digging near our pipe, replacing a gas line or something, and hits it. And so we need to shut down our pipe, kick the sewage over to the old one, and run it for a couple of hours or days, and then kick it back. Where the alternative is what we dealt with in 2016 and 2017, you're trucking stuff away for a couple of days at a cost of close to $1 million.
But if that was caused by construction, wouldn't they be paying for it through their insurance company? Wouldn't they be liable
Probably.
for that?
Yeah,
Right.
probably.
Well, they would, but I think it's the usability, right? To be able to
Right.
use it. But the one thing that does kind of lean towards that is we don't control probably 80% of the land. So we can't manage our risk, right? Like we can't have Bob Curran issuing the permit saying, you can't do that. That's the poop pipe, you know? This can go to Brockton. 80% of it lives in Brockton. So they manage our risk, which is a liability.
Well, we do control the easement. So I would assume, I haven't seen the easement agreements, but I would assume that the easement probably states that anyone doing any work within a certain feet of this pipe have to notify the town of Whitman. I'm assuming that's typically what an easement agreement includes. So yes, technically it's not our property, but we would have, I would assume we would have that right to be notified, and also the right to perform clearing, just like pipelines and petroleum pipelines and overhead electric lines. They'll have in their agreement, we have the right to clear X amount of feet from our easement, within our easement.
Well, that if it had that type of language, Dave, that would be great. I've never seen it. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's a good question.
You're probably right,
But
but I don't know.
Right.
Different
The
point of
state
view.
dig safe laws require them to notify all people who own utilities in the area. So, and Whitman does their own markouts for dig safe. So we would get notified if someone actually called 811 ahead of time. That is usually the issue though.
Okay.
Different point of view, where it's 16 million for them to reline or do something with that existing pipe. Most of the cost in my mind is in laying that new pipe. How much more would it cost us to just lay a secondary pipe that's, either dead or just there, that you could even hook up with a diverter valve or whatever, instead of relining a steel pipe that's going to be failing and deteriorating?
I don't know if we have the room to run 3 20-inch pipes in that easement.
Right. And
But do we have to address the easement if we even run the second pipe?
well, yeah, most easement agreements say that, you have X amount of width, and you have to remain within that, and and your pipeline has to be within certain feet of that width, and usually you have a little give and take. But yeah, I'm not a pipeline expert, but I'd be surprised whether or not it would be technically feasible to do it, based on likely width needed to put 2 pipes in, as well as, you couldn't do it on top of each other because some of the depth of this pipe is fairly shallow.
Well, I think I'm at a point where, and I don't know what the committee is, but I'm at a point where I believe we have to do something, right? We have no choice. We got to do something. And I really like the idea of agreeing to doing one pipe right away, and continuing to explore the other options, and having probably the DPW or somebody come in and at least explain some of the languages or confirm the languages within the easements, and just so we're not doing, hey, what we have all done historically. I mean, what you're saying, Dave, makes perfect logical sense. And what I've done in the past, I have my own experiences, but I have no idea what the legal language of this easement says.
Right.
And I can't speak on that. The people that could would be the DPW, right?
Right. Right. So they anticipate forwarding a document over. So I think if it's the will of this committee, I'll request, you know, DPW commissioners to to come in along with environmental partners to come and represent or add to their presentation. You know, because you know, now that we're not under the gun of a January 2021 special town election, special town meeting, I think we have some time to really vet this out, get the information out there that allows for the townspeople to make an educated decision at town meeting.
Could,
ahead,
Mr.
Fred.
Chair, could we add to that, that they bring along copies of the easements that have been granted?
Well, right. So maybe a good, maybe, right. So we don't want to, the word I'm looking for, blindside DPW commissioners or their consultant with gotcha questions. So so if anyone wants to go ahead and forward me any questions that they have, forward those along. I'll let them know right now. You know, we have questions on the easement, the alternatives, whether or not, what, you know, you know, what's included in the alt add-ons, those type of subjects, and the final report, unless anybody has any other questions, the costs, you know how we came up with those costs. I'll send a bunch of, I'll send those general ideas out to them, and I think that would that, you know, with the environmental partners having that ahead of time, I think that would probably give him enough information in regards to, you know, what we're really looking at in terms of questions and answers. That seem reasonable to everyone?
It does.
All right, good. So any other questions on the sewer force main project? Justin, can you just go to, I think it's one of the appendixes after the figures.
Sure. Some of the drawings, or
It's way behind. It's way behind there. It's, I think it's the last page. Go to the last pages. The last page. No. What did I send you for? What does my my email say? I think I gave you the page numbers.
you said, no, hold on, wrong email from you. Figures 10 to 13.
I didn't give you the actual page number. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right. So in this document, there's a breakout of estimated costs for the four items. Sounds like based on this email that DPW sent over, there's new cost estimates out there. So yeah, so I think it you know, I'll send that request out and see if they approve our invitation, accept our invitation. All right, so that's all I got. Communications, I read off that email that I received. Anybody else have anything else in regards to any questions, comments, concerns in regards to what we have on the agenda for tonight?
If I could circle back to the subcommittee sort of interim town administrator report. For anyone who's not aware, we hired a new town administrator. He's beginning on February 8th. And this Tuesday, Lisa submitted a letter of resignation. She'll be leaving on, her last day is scheduled to be February 5th. So
Well, that's too bad.
some changes. Yeah, no, sorry to see her go.
Yeah. So it's going to be a tough learning curve for Lincoln.
Yep.
Without her.
We'll be, we're trying to work that out now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at our schedule. We're not scheduled to meet on the 4th, which is prior, and then on the 18th, which is afterwards. I think, you know, hopefully that 10 days will give him give him enough time to It probably won't, but
Probably not too much for the capital side of things. I think his first focus is going to be the operating budget for.
the budget. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
priority number one. Absolutely. But we have two potential projects coming up for capital requests. One that we've seen, and that's the Force Main. But the other one that's out there, and we haven't got any updates yet on it. Well, actually, now that I think about it, they did mention it during their meeting that they had no updates in regards to the DPW feasibility study. So I'm assuming that's still being worked on by environmental partners. So that will be interesting to see if we have that. I assume we're probably going to have the same amount of questions for that DPW building that we do on this project. Based on the amount of that they're anticipating, numbers been thrown out anywhere from $6 to $9 million. Well, actually, I think it went into double digits at one point. So maybe if it's the will of this committee too, I shoot an email to DPW commissioners asking a status update and invite environmental partners to another meeting, and so we can try to vet this. Well, a meeting after we receive the documents, so we have time to review it, discuss it, and then invite them to a subsequent meeting with our follow-up questions, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense to anybody, let me know. All right. Yeah, so I think that's a good plan. All right. Anything else? All right. So I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll entertain it. Motion by Fred Small, seconded
Second.
by Justin at 6:59. Roll call vote. Don?
Yep.
David, yes. Justin?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Unanimous at 6:59. All right. Thanks, everybody.
you.
I'll let you know